Ambassador Rillo stood at the viewing window of his small ship and watched the blue planet grow larger. Earth, the home of humanity. He had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. And now that he was here, fear filled his 4 hearts. The Velnorian Empire was dying. His people had ruled 17 star systems for 10,000 years. They had built great cities on distant moons. They had created art and music that other species called beautiful, but none of that mattered now. The Keth Dominion was coming, and the Keth did not care about art or music. They only cared about conquest and death. Rillos had visited 6 other species before coming to Earth. The Torani had refused to help. The Meketh had laughed at him. The Grolan had simply closed their doors. Everyone in the galaxy knew the Velnorians were finished. No one wanted to stand beside a dying empire. But then someone had whispered a suggestion. A dangerous suggestion. Go to Earth. Ask the humans for help. Rillos had heard stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. They said humans were insane. They said humans fought wars for fun. They said humans would charge into certain death with smiles on their faces. Most species avoided Earth completely. The humans had only been traveling among the stars for 200 years, but already the other races had learned to fear them. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere, and Rillos saw green lands and blue oceans below. It looked peaceful. It looked beautiful. It did not look like the home of monsters. A human voice came through the communication system. Velnorian vessel. You are cleared for landing at Geneva Spaceport. Welcome to Earth. The voice sounded friendly. Normal. Rillos tried to calm himself. When his ship landed, 2 humans were waiting for him on the platform. One was a tall man with black hair and calm eyes. The other was a woman with her hair tied back and a sharp look on her face. Both wore military uniforms with many symbols on their chests. Ambassador Rillos, the man said. He bowed his head slightly. I am Captain Tejo, of the United Earth Fleet. This is Commander Yuna. We have been assigned to hear your request. Rillos stepped forward on his thin legs. He was taller than the humans, but somehow he felt small next to them. There was something in the way they stood, something in the way they watched him, like predators waiting to see what he would do. Thank you for receiving me, Rillos said. His translator turned his words into human language. I come with a request from the Velnorian High Council. We seek military alliance with Earth. Captain Tejo and Commander Yuna exchanged a look. They did not seem surprised. Let us talk inside, Tejo said. They led Rillos to a large building with windows that looked out over mountains. Inside, they sat at a round table. Human soldiers stood at the doors, their weapons visible. Rillos noticed that the soldiers never stopped watching him. Their eyes were always moving, always alert. Tell us about your situation, Commander Yuna said. Her voice was direct and clear. Rillos explained everything. He told them about the Keth Dominion and their endless hunger for conquest. He told them about the 3 Velnorian colonies that had already fallen. He described the Keth warriors, massive creatures with armored skin and claws that could tear through metal. He explained that his people were scientists and artists, not fighters. They had a defense fleet, but it was old and weak. The Keth will reach our homeworld within 1 year, Rillos said. When they arrive, my people will be destroyed. Our culture, our history, everything we have built, it will be gone. Captain Tejo listened without expression. When Rillos finished, the human was quiet for a long moment. Other species refused to help you, Tejo said. It was not a question. Yes, they are afraid of the Keth, and they believe the Velnorian Empire is already dead. But you came to us. Commander Yuna leaned forward. You came to Earth, even though most species fear us. Why? Rillos hesitated. Then he decided to speak the truth. Because my people are desperate, because we have nowhere else to turn, and because... He paused. Because I have heard that humans do not run from fights. I have heard that you charge toward danger instead of away from it. I do not understand this. But I hope it means you will help us. Captain Tejo smiled. It was a small smile, but it changed his whole face. You heard correctly, Ambassador. Humans do not run. Commander Yuna pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A map of the galaxy appeared in the air above it. Show us the Keth positions. Show us their fleet movements. Show us everything. For the next 3 hours, Rilos shared every piece of information he had. The humans asked many questions. They wanted to know about Keth weapons, Keth tactics, Keth weaknesses. They studied the maps with intense focus. Sometimes they spoke to each other in quick, quiet voices that Rilos could not follow. Finally, Captain Teho stood up. Ambassador Rilos, I must be honest with you. The United Earth Fleet has never fought the Keth Dominion. We do not know if we can defeat them. Rilos felt his hope begin to fade. However, Teho continued, we have fought many enemies. We have faced species that were stronger than us, faster than us, more advanced than us, and we are still here. He looked directly into Rilos's eyes. Humanity does not abandon its allies. If we agree to this alliance, we will fight beside you until the end. Whatever that end may be. You would risk your own people for us? Rilos asked. You would send your soldiers to die for a species you have never met before today? Commander Yuna answered, that is what allies do, Ambassador. That is what humans do. Rilos did not understand. In the galaxy, he knew, every species looked after itself. Alliances were temporary agreements of convenience. No one truly sacrificed for another. There is something you should know, Yuna added. Her voice became serious. When word spreads that you have allied with humanity, things will change for your people. Other species will look at you differently. What do you mean? They will fear you, Teho said simply, because they fear us. And fear can be a powerful weapon, Ambassador. Perhaps more powerful than any fleet. Rilos thought about this. He had come to Earth hoping for ships and soldiers. He had not expected this, the idea that humanity's reputation alone could change his people's fate. Do we have an alliance? He asked. Captain Teho extended his hand. Rilos had learned about this human custom. It was called a handshake. It meant agreement and trust. Rilos reached out and took the human's hand. It was warm and strong, and in that moment, he felt something he had not felt in many months. Hope. Welcome to Earth's alliance, Ambassador, Teho said. Now let us prepare for war. The joint fleet moved through deep space like a great metal snake. Velnorian ships flew in careful formation, their silver hulls catching the light of distant stars. Beside them, human warships cut through the darkness. The human vessels were smaller but heavier. They were built for one-purpose war. Admiral Veko watched the human ships from the command deck of the Velnorian flagship. He had led his people's fleet for 30 years. He had faced pirates and raiders. He had protected trade routes and defended colonies. But he had never seen anything like the human navy. Their ships are ugly, said Officer Dellin, standing beside him. No elegance, no beauty, just weapons and armor. Perhaps that is the point, Veko replied quietly. A message came through from the human flagship. Captain Teho's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Veko could see human officers moving quickly around their command center. Everyone was busy. Everyone looked focused. Admiral Veko, Teho said, our scouts have found a Keth raider group, 12 ships. They are attacking a mining station in the Velon asteroid belt. Veko felt cold fear run through him. The Velon belt was deep inside Velnorian territory. The Keth had pushed further than anyone knew. 12 Keth raiders, Veko said. That is a significant force. We should call for reinforcements before engaging. Teho shook his head. There is no time. The mining station has 300 workers. If we wait, they will be dead before reinforcements arrive. But the risk, Admiral. Teho's voice was calm but firm. We did not come here to watch your people die. We came here to fight. Let us fight. Veko stared at the human captain. There was no fear in Teho's eyes. No hesitation. Just a quiet certainty that made Veko feel both amazed and terrified. Very well, Veko said. We will follow your lead. The fleet changed course toward the Velon belt. Lieutenant Dae Sung stood in the deployment bay of the assault ship Thunder, checking his weapon for the third time. Around him, 30 human soldiers prepared for battle. They loaded ammunition, tested their armor systems, and talked to each other in loud voices. "I heard Keth warriors can punch through steel walls," said Private Minji, a young woman with short hair and bright eyes. "Good," replied Sergeant Byung-ho, a large man with scars on his face. "That means they will be worth fighting." Quote, Dae Sung smiled. This was what he loved about his fellow soldiers. Other species ran from danger. Humans ran toward it. The ship shook as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through the viewing ports, Dae Sung could see the battle already starting. Keth Raiders' black ships with sharp angles were firing on the mining station. Velnorian defense ships tried to fight back, but they were outmatched. One Velnorian ship exploded as Dae Sung watched. "All units, prepare for boarding action," came Captain Taeho's voice through the communication system. "We are going to hit the Keth command ship directly. Disable their leadership, and the raiders will scatter. Direct assault on the command ship." Minji's eyes went wide. "That ship has probably 500 Keth warriors on board. Then we will have to kill 500 Keth warriors," Dae Sung said calmly. "Weapons ready. Let us show these aliens what humans can do." The assault ships launched. 12 small vessels carrying 300 human soldiers flew straight toward the massive Keth command ship. The Keth fired at them, and 3 assault ships exploded. 9 kept going. The Velnorian officers watching could not believe what they were seeing. No sane species would charge directly at a Keth warship. Dae Sung felt his ship slam into the side of the Keth vessel. Cutting tools burned through the hull. The door opened, and hell waited on the other side. Keth warriors stood in the corridor, massive creatures nearly 3 meters tall, with gray armored skin and 4 arms ending in razor claws. They roared when they saw the humans, a sound like thunder and hatred combined. Dae Sung raised his weapon and smiled. "Good morning," he fired. The battle was chaos and blood and fire. Keth warriors charged at the humans with terrible speed. Their claws cut through armor. Their strength threw soldiers against walls. But the humans did not retreat. They did not panic. They fought with a fury that shocked even the Keth. Dae Sung saw Sergeant Byung-ho grab a Keth warrior and wrestle it to the ground. The creature was twice his size, but Byung-ho held on, giving Minji time to shoot it in the head. When the Keth fell, Byung-ho stood up laughing. "Is that all you have?" he shouted at the enemy. "Come on, fight harder." The Keth had never encountered anything like this. They were used to enemies who ran, who begged, who broke under pressure. These humans broke nothing. They pushed forward, step by bloody step, climbing over the bodies of fallen friends and enemies alike. Dae Sung led his squad toward the command center. 3 of his soldiers had died. 7 were wounded. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Somewhere behind them, Velnorian workers were depending on them. The door to the command center exploded inward. Dae Sung charged through, firing at everything that moved. The Keth commander, a giant creature with golden markings on its armor, met him in combat. Its claws slashed across his chest, cutting through his armor and into his flesh. Pain exploded through his body. Dae Sung grabbed the creature's arm and held it tight. Blood poured from his wounds. His vision began to blur. But he did not let go. "Minji!" he shouted. "Now!" Minji appeared behind the Keth commander and put her weapon against its head. She pulled the trigger. The commander fell. The bridge crew froze. Dae Sung collapsed against a control panel, breathing hard. He looked at the Keth officers staring at him, staring at this small, bleeding human who had just killed their leader. "Your commander is dead," Dae Sung said, his voice rough with pain. "Surrender or join him." They surrendered. Aboard the Velnorian flagship, Admiral Veko watched the battle data in stunned silence. The humans had lost nearly half their assault force. 140 soldiers had died taking that ship. But they had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. "Admiral," Officer Dellin whispered. "Look at the other Keth ships." Veko looked. The remaining Keth raiders were retreating. They were actually running away. They have never run before, Veko said softly. In all our years of fighting the Keth, I have never seen them retreat. Captain Tejo's face appeared on the screen again. Behind him, Veko could see human medics working on wounded soldiers. Tejo himself had blood on his uniform. The mining station is secure, Admiral, Tejo said. All 300 workers are safe. Veko wanted to say something profound. He wanted to express the amazement and gratitude he felt. But only one question came out. Why? Your soldiers died by the hundreds. Why would you sacrifice so much for people you do not know? Of Vistans, Tejo was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired but steady. Because that is what we do, Admiral. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight enemies that others fear. And we never, ever leave allies behind. He paused. Your people are our allies now. That means your people are our people. And we protect our people. Veko felt something change inside him. He had spent his whole life believing that survival meant avoiding risk, avoiding conflict, avoiding strength. But watching these humans, watching them bleed and die and laugh in the face of death, he realized he had been wrong. Strength was not about avoiding danger. Strength was about facing danger and choosing to fight anyway. Thank you, Captain, Veko said quietly. I believe I am beginning to understand why the galaxy fears your kind. Tejo smiled, though it was a sad smile. Fear is useful, Admiral, but respect is better. And today, I hope we have earned both. Fair 40, the fleet regrouped and continued toward Velnorian space. Behind them, the Keth retreated to lick their wounds and spread the word. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 1 week, every major species had heard about the battle in the Velon asteroid belt. The story spread through trade routes and diplomatic channels, through smuggler dens and royal courts. The Velnorians had allied with humanity. And together, they had made the Keth run. Ambassador Rillos sat in his office on the Velnorian homeworld and read the messages coming from across the galaxy. He could not believe what he was seeing. The Torani, who had laughed at his request for help 3 months ago, were now asking for trade negotiations. The Meketh, who had called the Velnorian Empire dead, were offering technology exchanges. The Grolan, who had closed their doors in his face, were requesting a diplomatic meeting. This is impossible, Rillos whispered. His assistant, a young Velnorian named Kelana, looked up from her desk. Ambassador, 2 months ago, no one would speak to us. Now everyone wants to be our friend. He held up his communication device. I have 17 messages from species that ignored us before. 17. Kelana walked over and looked at the messages. Her eyes went wide. The Fenari want to discuss a mutual defense agreement? The Fenari have not made agreements with anyone for 200 years. And look at this one, Rillos pointed to another message. The Torvac Trade Consortium wants to offer us preferential shipping rates. They have never offered preferential rates to anyone. Kelana sat down slowly. It is because of the humans. They are not helping us because they like us. They are helping us because they are afraid. Afraid of what? Of what the humans might do to them if they do not help us. Kelana looked at her ambassador with serious eyes. The galaxy has a new power, Ambassador, and everyone wants to be on the right side of it. Rillos thought about this. Commander Yuna had told him that things would change when word spread about the alliance. He had not understood what she meant at the time. Now he was beginning to see, far across the galaxy, in the dark halls of the Keth Dominion. Supreme Commander Thrak listened to reports from his officers. His massive, clawed hands gripped the arms of his throne, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Explain to me again, Thrak growled, how 12 of our raiders were defeated by a handful of human soldiers. The officer trembled. Supreme Commander, the humans fought without fear. They charged directly into our strongest positions. They ignored wounds that should have killed them. They kept fighting even as they died. Impossible. No species fights like that. The humans do, Supreme Commander. And now? The officer hesitated. Speak, Now the other species are talking. They say the humans are unstoppable. They say allying with humanity makes you invincible. Several neutral species have already begun sending support to the Velnorians. Thrak rose from his throne. He towered over his officers, a mountain of gray armor and terrible strength. For 1,000 years, the Keith had conquered without mercy. They had destroyed civilizations. They had eaten the weak and crushed the strong. No one had ever stopped them. Until now. These humans, Thrak said slowly, they think they can challenge the Keth. They think their little victory means something. He walked to the viewing window and stared out at the stars. They are wrong. We will teach them what it means to face the Dominion. We will crush them so completely that no one will ever dare to stand against us again. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? Thrak turned back. His eyes burned with hatred. Gather the full fleet. Every warship. Every warrior. Every weapon. We go to the Velnorian homeworld. And we end this. On the Velnorian homeworld, the changes continued. Human engineers arrived to help upgrade the defense systems. Human military advisors trained Velnorian soldiers in new tactics. Human ships patrolled the borders, their presence alone enough to make raiders think twice. Lieutenant Dae Sung, recovered from his wounds, walked through the streets of the Velnorian capital city. He was supposed to be meeting with local security officials. But he had arrived early, so he walked and watched and learned. The Velnorians were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They moved gracefully, like dancers. Their buildings were works of art, with curved walls and beautiful carvings. Everything about them spoke of culture and beauty and peace. Dae Sung understood now why they could not fight the Keth alone. The Velnorians were creators, not destroyers. They had spent 10,000 years building beauty, while the rest of the galaxy built weapons. It was wonderful and tragic at the same time. A young Velnorian child ran up to him. She barely reached his waist, with huge, curious eyes. "Are you a human?" she asked. Dae Sung smiled. "Yes, I am. My mother says humans are very brave. She says you saved the mining workers in the asteroid belt. Many humans helped save them. Many humans died." The child thought about this. "Were you scared?" Dae Sung knelt down to her level. "Yes. I was scared. Being brave does not mean having no fear. It means being afraid and fighting anyway." The child's mother hurried over, apologizing for the interruption. But Dae Sung waved away her concerns. "Your daughter is curious," he said. "That is a good thing. Never stop asking questions." He continued walking. But the encounter stayed with him. This was why humans fought. Not for glory or conquest, but for children like that one. For innocent people who deserve to live without fear. Captain Teho and Commander Yuna met with Ambassador Rilos and Admiral Veko in the central government building. Maps covered the walls, showing Keth movements, allied positions, and strategic points. "Our intelligence suggests the Keth are gathering their forces," Yuna said. She pointed to a cluster of red markers on the map. "This is more ships than we have ever seen them collect in one place. We believe they are planning a major assault." "On where?" Admiral Veko asked. "Here." Teho pointed to the Velnorian homeworld. "They want to end this war with one decisive strike. Destroy your capital, break your spirit, show the galaxy that humanity cannot protect you." Ambassador Rilos felt fear return to his hearts. "Can we stop them?" "We can try," Teho said. "But I will not lie to you, Ambassador. This will be the largest battle humanity has ever fought. We may not win." Teho said. Teho said. "Then why fight?" Veko asked. "If victory is uncertain, why not retreat? Save your forces for another day?" Commander Yuna answered. "Because retreat would send a message to the entire galaxy. It would say that humanity abandons allies when things get difficult. It would say that our protection means nothing. Every species watching us right now would learn that lesson. And the next time someone faces the Keth alone, they will remember that humanity ran away." She looked at the Velnorian leaders with steady eyes. We do not run. We stand. Even if standing means dying. Admiral Veko nodded slowly. He had seen human courage in the asteroid belt. He had watched them charge into impossible battles and emerge victorious. If any species could face the full might of the Keth Dominion, it was humanity. Then we stand together, Veko said. Together. Rillos agreed. Tejo smiled and extended his hand. One by one, they all shook it. Human and Velnorian. Two species united against a common enemy. Begin the preparations, Tejo said. The Keth are coming. And when they arrive, they will find us ready. Across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. They saw the Velnorians standing tall for the first time in centuries. They saw humanity preparing for war without hesitation. They saw something they had never expected to see. They saw hope, and in quiet rooms and secret meetings, leaders began to ask themselves a dangerous question. If we helped the Velnorians, if we stood with humanity, what might we become? The turning tide had begun. The galaxy was changing. And at the center of it all, humans and Velnorians prepared to face the storm together. Whatever happened next would be remembered for 1,000 years. The sky above the Velnorian homeworld turned dark with ships. The Keth Dominion had arrived. Sergeant Hana stood on the outer defense wall and watched the enemy fleet descend through the atmosphere. She had seen war before. She had fought in battles across 3 different star systems. But she had never seen anything like this. Hundreds of Keth warships blocked out the sun like a metal cloud. That is a lot of ships, said Private Jinwoo beside her. His voice shook slightly. Yes, Hana replied calmly. It is. Are we going to die today? Hana looked at the young soldier. He was barely 20 years old, fresh from training. This was his first real battle. She remembered being like him once. Afraid and uncertain. That felt like a lifetime ago. Maybe, she said honestly. But if we die fighting. We die protecting people who need us. That is not a bad way to go. Jinwoo swallowed hard. Then he nodded and gripped his weapon tighter. Okay. I can do that. Hana smiled. Good. Now get to your position. The Keth will hit the walls first. We need to hold them as long as possible. Across the city, human and Velnorian forces prepared for battle. Captain Tejo commanded from the central fortress, coordinating defenses across the entire capital. Commander Yuna led the ground forces in the eastern sector. Admiral Veko directed the fleet in orbit, trying to slow the Keth advance. The first Keth landing ships crashed into the outer districts. Enemy warriors poured out, their roars echoing through the streets. They moved like a gray flood, destroying everything in their path. Sergeant Hana watched them approach the outer wall. Thousands of Keth warriors running toward their position. Behind her, 200 human soldiers and 300 Velnorian defenders waited. Hold fire, Hana ordered through her communication device. Let them get closer. Wait for my signal. The Keth came closer. 200 meters. 100 meters. 50 meters. Now, the wall exploded with weapons fire. Hundreds of Keth fell in the first seconds. But more kept coming. Always more. They climbed over the bodies of their fallen and charged toward the defenders. The first Keth warrior reached the top of the wall. Hana met it with her combat knife, driving the blade into the weak point under its arm. The creature screamed and grabbed her throat with its other hand. She felt its claws pierce her skin. She grabbed her pistol and shot it in the face. More warriors came. The wall became a place of blood and chaos. Hana fought without thinking, moving from enemy to enemy, killing and killing and killing. Around her, soldiers fell. Human and Velnorian alike. They died, defending the city. Private Jinwoo appeared beside her, his armor covered in alien blood. Sergeant, they are breaking through on the north section. Hana looked. He was right. A group of Keth had climbed over the wall and were killing everyone in their path. If they were not stopped, the entire defense would collapse. Follow me, Hana shouted. She grabbed every soldier she could find and ran toward the breach. 10 humans and 12 Velnorians followed her. It was not enough. It would have to be enough. The Keth saw them coming and turned to fight. The largest one, a commander with scars covering its face, pointed at Hana and roared. Hana roared back. She hit the enemy line like a storm. Her weapon fired until it was empty. Then she used her knife. When her knife broke, she used her fists. She felt bones crack in her hands. She felt claws tear her flesh. She kept fighting. Around her, her soldiers did the same. Jinwoo fought beside a Velnorian warrior, the two of them covering each other like they had trained together for years. Another human lifted a fallen Velnorian and carried him to safety while still shooting at the enemy. Another died with 3 Keth warriors around him, his last act pulling the trigger on a grenade. The breach was sealed. But the cost was terrible. Hana collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Blood poured from a dozen wounds. Half her squad was dead. But the line had held. Sergeant, Jinwoo said. He was wounded too, his arm hanging useless at his side. You are hurt. So are you. Hana tried to smile but coughed up blood instead. Get the medic. We are not done yet. In orbit, Admiral Veko watched his fleet die piece by piece. The Keth had brought 500 warships. He had 150, including the human vessels. The numbers were impossible, but the humans did not seem to care about numbers. Captain Tejo's flagship, the Iron Will, flew directly into the center of the Keth formation. Enemy ships surrounded it, firing from all sides. The Iron Will should have been destroyed in seconds. Instead, it kept fighting. It kept pushing forward. And one by one, Keth ships fell before it. How is that ship still flying? Veko whispered. It is human engineering, his officer replied. Their ships are built to take damage that would destroy any other vessel. They sacrifice beauty for survival. Veko watched as the Iron Will destroyed another Keth cruiser. Fire burned across its hull. Sections of armor were completely gone. But it kept fighting. Not just their ships, Veko said quietly. Their people are built the same way. On the ground, the battle continued for hours. The Keth pushed into the city, and the defenders pushed back. Streets became battlegrounds. Buildings became fortresses. Every block was paid for in blood. Commander Yuna led a counterattack in the eastern sector. She had started with 2,000 soldiers. Now she had 300. But they had stopped the Keth advance and started pushing them back. All units. Yuna's voice came through every communication device in the city. This is Commander Yuna. I know you are tired. I know you are hurt. I know many of our friends have died today. But we cannot stop now. The Keth want to break us. They want to prove that humanity cannot protect its allies. They want to show the galaxy that hope is a lie. She paused. In the distance, explosions lit up the night sky. We are going to prove them wrong. Not because we are stronger than them. Not because we have better weapons. But because we care. We care about the people we protect. We care about each other. And that is something the Keth will never understand. Her voice grew stronger. For humanity. For our allies. For everyone who believes that the strong should protect the weak. Fight. Across the city, the cry was taken up. Human and Velnorian voices joined together. Wounded soldiers stood up. Broken units reformed. The entire defense seemed to catch fire with new energy. Sergeant Hana heard the call. She pulled herself to her feet, ignoring the pain that screamed through her body. You heard the commander, she said to her remaining soldiers. We fight. She led them back into battle. The night was long and terrible. Thousands died on both sides. But when the sun finally rose over the Velnorian capital, something amazing had happened. The defense lines had held. The Keth had thrown everything they had at the city. Their best warriors, their most powerful weapons, their unstoppable war machine. And they had been stopped. Not defeated. Not yet. But stopped. And in that stopping, something changed. The Keth had never been stopped before. They had never faced an enemy who simply refused to break. They had never encountered people who would die rather than retreat. Sergeant Hannah sat against a ruined wall as medics treated her wounds. She looked up at the morning sky, still filled with the smoke of battle. "We held," Jinwoo said beside her. He sounded surprised. "We actually held." "Yes," Hannah said. "We did." But she knew this was not the end. The Keth were still out there, regrouping. The final battle was yet to come. And when it came, it would decide everything. She closed her eyes and rested. Tomorrow, she would fight again. For her allies, for her people, for everyone who needed protecting. That was what humans did. That was who they were. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand. 3 days after the defense of the capital, the final battle began. Supreme Commander Thrak had gathered every remaining Keth warrior for one last assault. He had lost a third of his fleet in the initial attack. He had lost thousands of his best soldiers in the city streets. But he still had overwhelming numbers. He still believed he could win. He was wrong. What Thrak did not know was that help had arrived. During the 3 days of rest, ships had been arriving from across the galaxy. The Fenari sent a fleet of 50 warships. The Meketh contributed weapons and supplies. Even the Grolan, who never interfered in other species' wars, sent soldiers to fight. They came because of what they had witnessed. They came because they saw humans dying to protect people who were not their own. They came because, for the first time in galactic history, someone was actually standing up to the Keth, and they wanted to be part of it. Captain Teho stood on the bridge of the damaged Iron Will and looked at the combined fleet forming around him. Human ships, Velnorian ships, Fenari ships, vessels from a dozen different species. It was the largest allied force ever assembled. "All fleet commanders," Teho said through the communication system. "This is Captain Teho of the United Earth Fleet. Today, we end this war. Today, we show the Keth that they are no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. Today, we fight together." Commander Yuna's voice came through. "Ground forces ready, Captain." Sergeant Hannah is leading the assault teams. Admiral Veko added, "Velnorian fleet in position. We follow your lead." One by one, commanders from every species reported in. They were ready. They were unified. They were unafraid. Teho allowed himself a small smile. 6 months ago, he had shaken hands with a terrified ambassador from a dying empire. Now, he led an alliance that would change the galaxy forever. "All ships," he ordered. "Attack." The battle was massive beyond imagination. Thousands of ships clashed in the space above the Velnorian homeworld. Energy beams crossed the darkness like deadly light. Explosions bloomed like flowers of fire. Ships died by the dozens, then by the hundreds. But the Allied fleet pushed forward. They did not scatter. They did not retreat. They fought as one united force. On the ground, Sergeant Hannah led her assault team toward the main Keth landing zone. Her wounds from 3 days ago still hurt. Her body begged for rest, but she ignored it. There would be time to rest after they won. Jinwoo ran beside her, his injured arm now in a support brace that let him fight. Around them, human and Velnorian soldiers moved together like a single machine. "Keth position ahead," shouted a Velnorian scout. "Heavy defenses." Hannah did not slow down. "Then we hit them hard and fast. No stopping. No hesitation. Push through. And keep pushing." They hit the Keth line like a hammer. Hannah was the first over the barricade, her weapon blazing. She killed 3 warriors before they even realized she was among them. Jinwoo followed, covering her back. More soldiers poured in behind them. The Keth fought hard. They always fought hard. But something was different today. For the first time, there was fear in their eyes. They had believed themselves invincible. They had believed no one could stand against them. That belief was dying with every warrior who fell. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Allied forces pushed forward from every direction. The Keth were surrounded, outmaneuvered, overwhelmed. In space, The Iron Will burned its way through the Keth formation toward the enemy flagship. Half its weapons were gone. Its shields had failed hours ago. But it kept flying. It kept fighting. Supreme Commander Thrak watched from his command deck as his fleet crumbled around him. He could not understand what was happening. The Keth had crushed 100 species. They had conquered half the galaxy. How could they be losing to these humans? Captain Tejo's face appeared on his communication screen. The human looked tired. Blood stained his uniform. But his eyes were clear and steady. "Supreme Commander," Tejo said, "your fleet is defeated. Your warriors are dying. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue fighting, and we will destroy you completely." Thrak roared with rage. "The Keth do not surrender. We would rather die than bow to lesser species. Then you will die." Tejo's voice held no anger, only sadness. "I offered you a choice. You have made it." Tejo's voice. "I offered you a choice. You have made it. I offered you a choice. I offered you a choice. You have made it." The connection ended. 30 seconds later, the Iron Will and 6 allied ships concentrated their fire on the Keth flagship. Thrak had one moment to realize he had lost before his ship exploded around him. With their supreme commander dead, the remaining Keth forces broke. Some tried to flee, some surrendered, some fought to the death. But within an hour, the battle was over. The Keth dominion had fallen. On the surface of the Velnorian homeworld, Sergeant Hana stood among the ruins of what had been a Keth fortress. Bodies lay everywhere. Smoke rose from burning vehicles. The ground was stained with the blood of a dozen species. Jinwoo sat beside her, too tired to stand. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it." Hana looked up at the sky. Allied ships orbited above, their victory lights flashing. Down here, soldiers from different species embraced each other, laughed, cried, celebrated. "Yes," she said. "We did." A Velnorian officer approached them. His uniform was torn and burned, but his eyes shone with emotion. "Sergeant Hana," he said, "I want to thank you. My species would have been destroyed without humanity's help. We owe you everything." Hana shook her head. "You owe us nothing. You are our allies. Protecting you was the right thing to do." The officer seemed moved by her words. "In 10,000 years, no one has ever said that to us. No one has ever risked so much for us. How can we ever repay such a debt?" "By being good allies yourselves," Hana replied. "By helping others when they need it. By standing up for those who cannot stand alone. That is how you repay us." The officer nodded slowly. "I understand. I will make sure my people understand too." 1 week later, Ambassador Rillos stood before the Galactic Council. Representatives from every major species filled the Great Hall. They had come to witness history. "The Keth Dominion has fallen," Rillos announced. His voice carried across the chamber. "For 1,000 years, they terrorized the galaxy. They destroyed civilizations. They killed billions. And now they are defeated." Murmurs filled the hall. Some species had lost entire colonies to the Keth. Some had lived in fear for generations. This victory was not won by any single species, Rillos continued. It was won by an alliance. Velnorians and humans fought together. Fenari and Meketh sent support. Grolan soldiers died beside our own. For the first time in galactic history, we stood united. He paused and looked at Captain Tejo and Commander Yuna, who sat in the human delegation section. But none of this would have happened without humanity. They came to help us when everyone else refused. They bled for us. They died for us. They taught us that true strength is not measured by weapons or technology, but by the courage to protect others. Rillos raised his hand toward the human delegation. To fight alongside humanity is to be honored. The galaxy has learned this lesson. And because of that honor, we are now feared. Not because we are violent, not because we are aggressive, but because we have allies who will never abandon us. Allies who will face any enemy, no matter how terrible. Allies who fight, not for conquest, but for justice. He turned to address the full council. Let this be a lesson for all species. Standing alone makes us weak. Standing together makes us strong. And standing with humanity makes us invincible. The hall erupted in applause. Species that had been enemies for centuries cheered together. A new era had begun. Captain Tejo and Commander Yuna exchanged looks. They were exhausted. They had lost many friends in the war. But they had also gained something precious. They had gained a galaxy that finally understood what humanity stood for. Not conquest. Not domination. Not fear. But hope. Courage. And the simple belief that the strong should protect the weak. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. And it would echo through the stars for 10,000 years to come.